Another one got caught today, it's all over the papers.
Today, we're diving into a conflict that's basically as old as the personal computer itself. It's this constant clash between technological exploration and the law. And believe it or not, the whole thing can be traced back to a really famous text from 1986. This right here. My crime is that of curiosity. These words, written almost 4 decades ago, are pretty much the key to understanding a whole culture that honestly still baffles a lot of people today. This one sentence, it just perfectly nails the entire spirit of the hacker ethos. So, where does this quote come from? Well, it's from a document officially called The Conscience of a Hacker, but everyone just knows it as the Hacker's Manifesto. So, picture this. A hacker who goes by the Mentor gets arrested, and right after, he writes this short essay. And what's so fascinating is that it's not an apology. Not at all. It is a fiery, passionate defense of what he does. He argues that hacking isn't about being malicious. It's driven by a deep intellectual curiosity. And it's a total rejection of a society that he felt just didn't get technology. But this was so much more than just a rant. The Manifesto, it lays out an entire worldview, a whole philosophy for people who feel more at home in, the world of the electron and the switch. Let's break this down. At its heart, the motivation is pure curiosity, a need to understand how things work. The identity, it's finding a home in a digital world where what you know matters way more than what you look like. The Manifesto goes after the establishment, accusing them of having a 1950s techno brain, just totally unable to get it. And it justifies this exploration by comparing it to what it sees as society's bigger crimes, like war and greed. And finally, there's this powerful idea of solidarity, that this collective spirit of hacking just can't be stopped. It's a real declaration of identity against a world they saw as ignorant. Okay, but you might be thinking, this was all written back in the era of dial-up modems, right? So how does any of this hold up now in our world of instant, constant connection? Well, to figure that out, let's look at 2 very different, very real examples. All right, let's start by rewinding the clock. Our first case takes us right back to the Manifesto's own era, with a classic hacker who is pretty much the living embodiment of its original spirit. So let me introduce you to Parmaster. His real name was Jason Snitker. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, he was a master at exploring these early computer networks. And for him, it was never about money, it was about the pure, unadulterated thrill of the intellectual challenge. He truly lived in that world of the electron the Manifesto talks about, a world of bulletin board systems and late-night chats. But of course, that curiosity put him on a collision course with the law, and he actually became a fugitive from the Secret Service for more than 2 years. He was the poster child for the Manifesto's original rebel. Okay, now let's jump forward, way forward, to our time. You'd think that by now the lines between right and wrong would be a lot clearer, but as we're about to see, that's definitely not always the case. This is a completely different story. Meet Alberto Daniel Hill. He's a modern, experienced cybersecurity pro, what we call a white hat or ethical hacker. He found a massive, gaping security flaw. He could get into a system holding 200,000 patient records just by using admin for both the username and password. Can you believe that? So he did exactly what you're supposed to do. He responsibly reported it to the authorities in his country. And what did he get for it? He became the first hacker ever jailed in Uruguay. Just wow. And that situation just brings us right back to one of the most biting, most powerful lines in the entire Manifesto. Did you, in your 3-piece psychology and 1950s technobrain, ever take a look behind the eyes of a hacker? So here's the big question. Decades later, is that 1950s technobrain still a problem for our legal systems? Is that same ignorance still at the very heart of this conflict? And you know what? The answer seems to be a pretty resounding yes. In Alberto Hill's case, his conviction was literally blamed on the court's profound technical illiteracy. The system, the establishment, could not tell the difference between a security expert trying to prevent a disaster and a criminal trying to cause one. So when you put these 2 stories side by side, the pattern is just, it's impossible to ignore. In the 90s, you have Parma Straker, the classic explorer whose pure curiosity made him an outlaw, which totally validated the Manifesto's rebellious point of view. And then, in the 2020s, you have Alberto Hill, the ethical expert who did the right thing and was punished by that same system, proving that the Manifesto's biggest complaint about ignorance is still shockingly relevant. It is the exact same conflict, just playing out decades later with fancier tech. So you see, this is way more than just a cool history lesson. The problem that the mentor identified way back in 1986, well, it's a huge, unresolved issue for all of us living in this digital world today. And here's the bottom line. The tech, it has changed in ways we couldn't even dream of back then. But that fundamental gap in understanding between the people who live and breathe this stuff and the legal systems that govern it, that hasn't changed a bit. It's like our laws still can't figure out the why behind the keyboard. And this leaves us with a really big, really important question for our time. If the law itself can't tell the difference between someone trying to cause harm and someone trying to help, how on earth are we supposed to build a digital future that's both secure and fair? The Manifesto asked that question in 1986, and honestly, it feels like we're all still searching for the answer.